Hey friends, it's Lisa with Hand Stamped with Lisa Pretto, and today I have a really cute card that you can put a gift card in. It's really like a gift card holder, and if you are like me, you have a lot of events on the calendar this spring where you are going to be gifting a gift card. I mean, you think about like baby showers and bridal showers and graduations and all of the things, including Mother's Day, that we tend to give gift cards for. So I've got a really cute, simple, easy project for you that you can make in any colors that you want. So if you want to do it like in someone's high school colors, or they're having a baby boy, or you want to make it special in that way, you can change out the colors very, very easily. So let me switch my camera around and I will show you what we're going to make today. So this is the gift card holder. Let me get that for you straight. So really, really simple. What I love is it's got this really fun opening here. And there pops out that gift card. So you can see how it just gets held right in there. So when you're putting this together, the only really tricky part for this is getting the scoring right. To get the scoring right, to create that little pocket for the gift card. So that's what I'm going to start you on today. First, I will tell you what you need to make this project. So you're going to need a piece of basic white cardstock that measures 8.5 by 4.25. We are going to do a piece of fresh Freesia for this one, and it will measure 4 by 4.25. Then we have 2 pieces of Shamrock that both measure 4 by 4.25. A piece of that basic white at 4 by 3.25. And then this is a designer series paper. It's a 6 by 6. It's the bokeh, and it's got these really pretty little shimmery circles on it. And so this piece is going to measure 4 by 3.25. So like I said, we're going to start with the tricky parts first and see if we can get that one down. So I am going to grab my cutter here, and I am going to use the scoring blade. So the scoring blade right on top, I'm going to make sure that that bottom one is stuck tight. And so when we look at this, we are going to score at 4.5, 5.5, and then 6.5. And you might think that 6.5 is tricky, but if you come all just across there, you're going to see that 6.5, and you'll be able to do that. So we just scored it at 4.5, 5.5, and 6.5. So we'll get rid of that cutter. That's all we needed that for. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strengthen these score lines. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to fold it on that first score line and take my bone folder. So that's a nice crisp fold. Then I have my next score line, and I'm going to fold that back. And again, make that nice and crisp. And then I am going to score it moving forward. And that, my friends, is the whole trick to this card. I've got a couple other little things to teach you, but that is going to be the trick to this card, is making sure that we have that fold. Do you see that? So it looks like, if you think about it, like it looks like a mountain, right? And then these 2 pieces are going to get stuck together. So that is the trickiest part of this whole project. Now, for my project today, I am using this Happy Hibiscus stamp set and coordinating die. Any floral will work. Honestly, you could use any stamp set that you really loved, but I love how this stamps out so pretty, and so I thought it would be a really beautiful, really beautiful bridal shower gift card holder. So you can see again how I did that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a scrap of my Whisper White basic white cardstock, for those of you who have not been around as long as I have, and I'm going to take my fresh Freesia stamp set, or stamp pad rather. Oh, I've got a frog today. All right, and I've got that jeepers, that large floral from that Happy Hibiscus, and this is the outline part of the flower. They're all connected together. Can you see that? It's the outline part of the flower, and they are all connected. This is one large stamp. So when I'm stamping something like that, I do like to put it down on my surface and then take my stamp pad to it. I find I get a lot less ink all over on the glass block, so I don't have to worry about smudging quite so much. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp that right here. Now, you don't have to worry about being really specific where you're going to stamp it, because we are also going to die cut that, so you don't have to worry quite so much. Now, in order to use just one stamp set on this project, I'm going to stamp off this next time. And so what that means is I'm going to take that large floral, I'm going to come into that stamp set again, making sure I ink it really well, and then I'm just going to stamp off to the side before I go and stamp on it. And what you can see is it creates this really beautiful two-tone. So it's nice when you don't want to have to be getting out all sorts of different stamps, or you want something that looks a little bit more monochromatic. Stamping in that one stamp pad can be a really great option for you. So I'm going to do this flower next. So again, I'm going to stamp into my stamp pad. I'm going to stamp off on my scratch, and they all seem to have like that little piece that sticks out, so they're fairly easy to match right up. And then we've just got the little fella left, so we're going to stamp him in this fresh Freesia, stamp off, and then right there. So super, super simple to create that look with just one stamp pad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this with its coordinating die. So the die that comes with this, those are all connected as well. Now, when you run this through the machine, it's going to cut each of them out separately. So it's like a really slick little way to not have to run it through 500 times to get all these flowers. And so it'll stay just like this. Now, one of the little tricks that I found when I'm using something like this, particularly when it's something a little bit bigger, is I want to make sure that I adhere that die to the paper so it doesn't wiggle and then my flowers look a little funky. So we're just going to press that down. I just use a little bit of washi tape, and I come to the outside of that die and then just to the metal part. I'm not going to take that washi onto my stamped image because sometimes I found it will stick and then it tears apart at my stamped image. So I'm just going to come over here as well. Make sure it's sitting nice and tight there. And I'm probably going to give one more, only because it always frustrates me when I run them through and they don't come out nice and clean. So I'm going to just do this. Now, when you're putting it through, one of the nice things that you're going to see on here is it gives you the exact recipe of the plates that you need to use for what you're doing. Now, I am using a thin die, so it tells me I need number 1, and I need number 2, and then goes number 3, and then goes my image that I want to die cut. So I think that's a really handy tool, whether you're using a thin die cut or a regular embossing folder, or sometimes we have some of those embossing folders that are a little bit thicker. It tells you everything you need to know in putting that sandwich together, and I think that's really, really handy, particularly for people when they're first starting or they're using a bigger embossing folder and they're like, hey, I've never used this before, why isn't it working? Really nice when they give us just a little bit more information on that. So we just bring our little sandwich out here, and we have our 3 little flowers that we're going to use. So we'll get those off of there and put this little guy away. All right, now I did go in a little bit earlier and do these leaves as well. So I've got some little shy shamrock leaves that I'm going to be working with along with my florals. So now is the time just to put this guy together. So what I'm going to do first is find my little sandwich. So we've got this, here we go. Here is our sandwich. So the first thing I'm going to do is, in order for this to work really well, I need to adhere this part together. So I want to adhere this side to this side. But the thing that you want to make sure is that you only want to put the adhesive on the very bottom, because if we adhere the whole way up, we're going to have a hard time getting that gift card in there. So we're just going to adhere at the bottom. Now this is something that it's more than just a card front. When we start folding like these kinds of things, I always like to use my tear tape because I feel like it just does such a good job of holding on really well and making some of these 3D card folds work a little bit better. So we're just going to come on either side here, and you can see I'm putting it on the outside area of that panel. So what is going to look like when we fold this, you can see these 2 sides will come together and hold that together really nice. So you could do the tear tape just on one side, but like I said, I feel like this is one where you want to think like more is more. This is not a time to go less is more. More is more. Let's get that guy to really, really stick. And so we're just going to take this, right, and then we can just fold these 2 back. Make sure that we've got that nice thing. So you can see how that now creates that card fold that we need. So the next thing we're going to do is take a peek here. I'm going to come down to my paper, and I'm just going to find the middle of that, which is going to be 2 1/8. So there is the middle. I just did a quick measure. There is the middle of that. And then I'm going to give myself a little tick on either side here, about a 1/2 inch in. All right, so I've just given myself 3 little lines here. And honestly, I'm just going to use my scissors. There's all sorts of ways that you can do this, but I feel like the easiest way is just to give a little cut here, a little cut here, and you can see I'm just going in just the smallest amount, And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to cut out that middle portion because this is where my gift card is going to go in. So I need just to create just that little teensy pocket for it. And so you can see really, really easy. Now you could be fancy and do it with your paper cutter to your paper trimmer, but I just felt like that was super easy to do. And so now we come to the part where we are going to create the pretty part of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my ribbon. So there's lots of different ribbons that you could use for this. The example that I showed you has this fresh Freesia ribbon. Ooh, say that 3 times fast, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that before we add anything to it. I want to put it underneath because I want to hide this so that you can't see the ribbon going around. Now, rule of thumb, always give yourself a lot more ribbon than you could ever possibly need. Sometimes when we try and get skimpy, what happens is we don't have enough and then we have to go and add in so much more. So we're just going to give that a little go here. I'm going to grab my Stampin' Seal and I'm just going to take and do a straight line of adhesive right where I have that ribbon that's going to sit down. So I'm just going to do a line of adhesive there and I'm going to adhere that ribbon to the front right on there. And don't worry if it's not perfect. No one's going to see this part. And then I'm going to turn it over and I want to adhere that other portion of that ribbon on the back. And so if I just lay this ribbon down, I can see that I just really need to attach these 2 sides. So I'm going to take that and pull that across. And again, this is just to hide our handiwork because we're going to put a piece of cardstock over it. So you can see it sits just like that. And then at this point, I can cut off some of that excess so I'm not having that flap around while I'm working. All right, so let's start with the back. We want to cover our work, so we're going to take that adhesive and just give ourselves a little bit of adhesive there, and we're going to come in with one of those pieces of Shamrock. The other thing that this does is it does give a little bit of firmness to your project so that you don't have to worry about it feeling a little bit flimsy. So now we're going to come to the front and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come in with another piece of that Shamrock cardstock that we had prepped. And the trick with this, I will tell you, I've made a couple of boo-boos, is that the front of this is 4.5 by 4 1/4. So this is not a perfect square. And so if you lay this on it the other way, it does look a little bit off. You're probably the only one who's going to know that, but just know that for that sake. And then I'm going to come in with that beautiful Designer Series paper and I'm going to put a little adhesive on that one. So we're just layering. Oh, she's being tricky. Maybe I'll just take it over here. All right, no one's going to see that boo-boo, so we are just going to fly with it. All right, perfect. So there is that front. And then we're going to come on the inside, and I'm going to take another piece of that fresh Freesia and put it on the inside. And we are going to layer a piece of basic white over this. It's going to give us the place where we can put our sentiment. But before I put it in there, I do want to add just a little bit of fun to that. So I'm just going to take that big flower that we had in the beginning, the one that has that just one large flower. And so I'm just going to come, I'm going to ink that, and I am going to stamp off again. And I'm just going to come on that piece of Whisper White and put that right in the corner, just so that we have a little bit of flair on the inside of that card. Then I'm going to flip that over and layer that right in there. All right. Now for the front, we are going to create a little bit of layering, but I also want a greeting for this. Now you could make like a bunch of these, like you could make like say four or 6 of them, and because it takes a half a piece of cardstock to make it, so it works out really well that way. But you could take whatever you want there and make up a whole bunch of them and put no greeting on it, and then just add the greeting at the time you're gifting it, so that way you could say happy birthday or congratulations or whatever you want. But I know that I'm going to be gifting this one to one of my nieces. Well, I guess she's my second niece, my cousin's daughter. Someone figure that out for me. That is not my strong suit of where does she sit in the family. So I'm just going to grab a piece of Whisper White cardstock, basic white cardstock, and I'm going to go with the congratulations from the Happy Hibiscus stamp set. There's also a really couple other cute ones in here that I really love. You Make Me Smile, super cute. And then Thanks for Being So Kind. You can never have enough thank you cards on hand. I think it's one of those things that if you have them, you use them. If you don't have them, you think about using it, right? Oh, I should send them a card. And then you never do it, and then you feel bad. So I just inked that up in my Shy Shamrock, and I'm just going to come in here and stamp that right on there. So you can see I just stamped that right on there. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut that out. I'm going to grab my paper cutter again and just put this in here so that I can cut that out. I'm not giving you guys a ton of room here, am I? Let's lift this up a little bit. Wow, messy, messy, Lisa. All right, so I'm just going to put that in there, and I'm just going to cut this greeting and trim that up a little bit. So quick cut, easy to do with your trimmer, makes it perfect, which we love those perfect cuts, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a little bit of this end. This part doesn't need to be so perfect, because what we're going to do is we're going to come in to about the middle, give it a little snip, and then it's just get those corners to the middle. I laugh to think that I used to be able to do this without glasses. Whoa, those were some years ago. So you can see I just made this sweet little shape here to give it a little bit of extra flair. And so now we're just going to go back to finishing putting this together. And so I'm going to take my pieces that I want to embellish here in the front, and I'm going to start with my biggest piece, and I'm going to lay that down. And then I'm going to figure out, where do I want this piece? I like to lay my things out before I start getting too crazy so that nothing pops over. So I can see where I want to put this, right? I can bring this down a little bit. So I'm going to start with this one. Put a little bit of adhesive on there. And then I'm going to take that largest floral and get that on there just like so. So you can see I just taped both of those down. And now we're going to create a little bit more layer. So we're going to scoot over to our dimensionals, and we're going to take this bigger floral, so kind of like the middle flower, and we're going to put a couple dimensionals on that. And put that right about there. Right? It's art. You can't do it wrong, can you? I mean, everyone's got their own interpretation, so I love that. You can do it however you like. You know that if I'm going to make a project, it's going to have a lot of dimensionals on it. I love my dimensionals. I'm going to put that right there. And then I'm just going to take those leaves that I die cut a little bit earlier. I'm going to stick a little bit. And this is one that you can kind of play with. Like, where does it look like it could use a little something? Come in there. All right, so we've got some leaves added on there, so you can see how that is looking. Right, and now we're just going to add a little bit of embellishment. You can go here with any one that you like. I'm a big fan of these druzy ones, and so I'm just going to go to the middle. Now these flowers have stamens in them, so it might be a little bit of overkill to add these sparkles, but like, can you really go wrong adding a sparkle, right? And so that is the whole project. How easy is that? Once you've got that base cut, 8.5 by 4 1/4, and then you're scoring at 4.5, 5.5, and 6.5. It comes together really, really slick. Put your gift card in, tie it shut, and it looks just like that. So cute. So I'm going to put the link for my newsletter below. So make sure that you grab my newsletter. We do lots of fun exclusive things in the newsletter. And then also make sure that you subscribe. This is a journey, my friends. We're at the very beginning, so I promise they will get better and better each time. All right, loves, thanks for joining me.